I used to believe that if you married someone who made you laugh, you'd be okay. That was Eric. He wasn't perfect. He left socks on the floor, forgot birthdays unless I reminded him. But he made me laugh even when I didn't want to. When we met, I had just gotten out of a relationship that broke me, and he felt like safety, like finally coming in from the cold. We married fast, maybe too fast, if I'm being honest. But when you're in your late 20s and everyone around you is throwing wedding showers and baby sprinkles, it's easy to mistake momentum for fate. The first couple of years were good. We had inside jokes, late-night Taco Bell runs, and arguments about nothing that always ended in a messy kind of making up. He wasn't overly affectionate in public, but I never felt unloved. Not until I did. It started with little things. The phone flipped face down. The sudden interest in cologne. Work trips that used to stress him out suddenly became a nice break. I didn't want to be that wife, the one snooping or guessing at shadows. So I ignored it. I told myself stories. He was tired. We were just in a rough patch. Every marriage had them, right? Then came the day I knew. I had the flu, the real knock-you-down kind. Fever, chills, the whole mess. Eric had been distant all week, saying he was slammed at work. I called him, voice barely above a whisper, asking if he could grab some Gatorade on the way home. He didn't answer. Hours passed. When he finally walked in, he was freshly showered, wearing a different shirt than the one he'd left in, and there was lipstick on his neck. Not bright, not obvious, but I saw it. He didn't. I didn't say a word, just stared at him and nodded slowly, as if that moment were a door quietly clicking shut. He handed me the Gatorade like everything was normal, and I took it. Because sometimes it's easier to drink the lie than face the truth. But something shifted that day, not just in the marriage, but in me. The woman who always gave him the benefit of the doubt started keeping score. After that day, I stopped pretending. I didn't confront him, not right away. I didn't need to. His guilt was everywhere, in the way he avoided eye contact, in the sudden generosity. Flowers for no reason, takeout from my favorite places, back rubs I never asked for. I wanted to believe he was trying, but deep down, I knew he was covering tracks, not building bridges. Our house felt different. The walls weren't warmer from his presence. They were colder from the space between us. I found myself second-guessing everything. Was he really working late? Did that meeting actually get moved? Was the smirk on his face just a memory of her? I started noticing little things. A text he swiped away when I walked in. A receipt in his jacket for a restaurant we'd never been to. A woman's hair tie in the back seat of his car. The kind too glittery to belong to a coworker. I picked it up, stared at it, and put it right back. I wasn't ready to name it yet. Naming it would mean something had ended. Then came our anniversary. He forgot. No card, no dinner, no mention, just a rushed, long day at work and a cold beer in his hand as he turned on the game. I watched him from the kitchen, wondering how someone could erase 6 years of memories like that. Not with anger, not with a fight, but with nothing. And somehow, that nothing felt worse than betrayal. That night, I checked his phone. I'd never done it before, not even when I had reason to. But silence has a way of justifying trespassing. And there it was. Not a name I recognized, just a thread of messages. Casual, flirty, and then not casual at all. I scrolled, numb, photos, plans, a hotel. What gutted me most wasn't what she said. It was what he said. She never notices anything. She stopped being fun. I feel more like a roommate than a husband. That's when I realized he wasn't just cheating on me with his body. He was rewriting our story in real time, repainting our life with duller colors, turning me into the villain of his escape plan. I wanted to scream. I wanted to wake him up and make him see me. The woman who folded his laundry, who stayed up late waiting for his headlights in the driveway, who memorized his coffee order and laughed at his dumb jokes long after they stopped being funny. But I didn't scream. I closed the messages, placed his phone back on the nightstand, and I laid there in the dark, wide awake, with a rage that felt quieter than grief, but far more dangerous. Because grief mourns what's lost. Rage remembers what was taken. The next morning, I didn't cry. I got up, brushed my teeth, and made coffee like I hadn't just read the demolition plans for my own marriage. Eric came into the kitchen like always, kissed the top of my head like always, and asked if we were out of oat milk. I handed him the carton without saying a word. He didn't notice. That was the moment I realized just how invisible I'd become. You can't unsee betrayal once it's in your bloodstream. It lives under your skin, behind your eyes, on the tip of your tongue when someone asks, "How are things at home?" But I didn't tell anyone. Not my best friend. Not my sister. Not even my therapist, at first. I needed to hold it in my hands and feel the weight of it alone. I started taking inventory, not of things I loved, but of what I'd lost. I had stopped painting, stopped reading, stopped staying up late watching documentaries or burning frozen pizzas just because. I used to leave the house with red lipstick and no apologies. Now I was the woman in sweatpants at 3 p.m., trying to remember the last time someone looked at her like she mattered. I wasn't mourning the marriage. I was mourning the version of me that used to feel alive inside it. One night, I watched Eric scroll through his phone with that lazy half smile that used to be mine. I asked him casually what he was laughing at. He said it was just a meme. Then he turned the phone over and placed it face down again. And just like that, something inside me snapped, but not like glass. Like a lock finally clicking open. I didn't yell. I didn't accuse. I simply stood up, walked to the guest bedroom, and shut the door. That was the first night we didn't sleep in the same bed. The next morning, he didn't ask why. He just poured his coffee and left for work. That silence said more than any fight ever could. In the days that followed, I made a plan. Not for revenge, for freedom. I found a short-term rental close to my job. I transferred some savings into a separate account. I opened a new email address. I even started sketching again, just small things at night when the house was quiet and I could hear myself think. And then, one evening, I packed a single suitcase. Eric was still at work. I placed my wedding ring on the counter beside the coffee pot, the last place he ever looked when it came to me. And I left. No note, no scene, just an empty drawer and a quiet goodbye. Because by the time you have to explain why you're leaving, you've already been gone for a while. I didn't check my phone for 2 days after I left. No texts, no calls, nothing from him. And I didn't reach out either. There's a strange kind of peace in silence when you're the one who chose it. For the first time in months, maybe years, I could hear myself breathe. On the third morning, I woke up to a voicemail. It was short. Just Eric saying, "Can we talk?" He didn't sound angry or sorry, just flat. Like he was already packing the next version of his life in his head, ready to move on. I didn't call him back, but curiosity's a stubborn thing. So I opened my laptop and searched the name I'd seen in those messages. It didn't take long. She wasn't some stranger. She wasn't a colleague. She wasn't even someone from his past. She was from mine. Her name was Rebecca Lang. She had gone to high school with me. sat 2 rows behind me in junior year English. We weren't friends, not really, but we'd done a group project once. I'd driven her home. She'd cried in my car about her mom's drinking, and I remember letting her borrow my hoodie. I never got it back. I scrolled through her profile, photos of her hiking, drinking wine on patios, a selfie of her in Eric's sweatshirt. My Eric. Except he wasn't mine anymore, was he? I clicked through her posts like they were pages in a novel I never asked to read. And then I saw it. A photo from 3 months ago. The two of them on a rooftop bar, lit by string lights, arms wrapped around each other like they had nothing to hide. The caption, "When you stop settling, you finally find joy." It wasn't just a betrayal. It was a performance. He wasn't escaping something toxic. He was rewriting history to make himself the hero, to make me the villain. I sat there staring at the screen, shaking, not from heartbreak, from humiliation. Because while I was dying inside a marriage, he was thriving in his own fairy tale. But that's the thing about fairy tales. They're built on fantasy. And I had finally found my footing in reality. I didn't smash my laptop. I didn't scream or cry or throw things. I closed the browser and stood up. I made tea. I took a long shower. I folded laundry. And when my phone rang again, this time from him, I let it go to voicemail. Because when someone tells the world they've stopped settling, what they really mean is they've stopped pretending to be worthy of the person who loved them unconditionally. And I wasn't about to argue with that. I thought the hardest part would be leaving him. It wasn't. It was everything that came after. The empty apartment, the first dinner alone, the way I'd reach for a second coffee mug out of habit and then remember there was no one else to drink it. Grief doesn't show up the way you expect. It creeps into routines, into silence, into the empty side of the bed. But day by day, I started to breathe deeper, laugh louder, sleep better. I reconnected with old friends, people I had pushed aside during the years I spent making Eric the center of my universe. And slowly, I began rebuilding myself from the inside out. One afternoon, I ran into someone from our old neighborhood at the grocery store. She asked how Eric was, and I just smiled and said, "Probably still lying." It wasn't bitter, just factual and freeing. What he did hurt, but what hurt more was how long I had accepted crumbs, thinking it was enough to survive on. Love isn't supposed to feel like walking on eggshells. It's not supposed to leave you questioning your worth every time someone looks at their phone and smiles. He did try to come back. Eventually, sent a long email with all the right words. Regret, confusion, even love. He said he missed us. Said he made a mistake. Said he realized I was the one who always stood by him. And for a second, I felt that old, familiar pull. The urge to fix, to understand, to forgive. But then I remembered something my therapist once told me. Closure isn't something they give you. It's something you decide for yourself. So I wrote back a single sentence. I hope you find what you're looking for. But it was never me. Then I blocked his email. It didn't feel like revenge. It felt like peace. Months later, I walked past that same rooftop bar from their photo, the one with the string lights and the view. I stood across the street for a minute, watching couples laugh, clink glasses, lean in close, and for the first time, I didn't feel envy. I felt clarity. I wasn't the woman he wanted, but I was the woman he could never break. And that, in the end, is the only kind of happy ending I need.